It's the 70th anniversary of D-Day. My uncle landed on Normandy Beach on D+4, so it just means a little extra for us this year. It's the greatest generation, and it's a tremendous honor to be able to say thanks to these 62 World War II vets.
Very exciting, celebrating the 70th anniversary, remembering D-Day. But we got 62 World War II veterans here. That's incredibly exciting. And I think we have, I was looking at the numbers, I'd have to look at it, but a lot of veterans all over the state of Florida. I'm sure World War II veterans celebrating D-Day today. So it's a very exciting time. I just want to thank my friend John, what he does in the community, especially today. I just had a chance to meet his uncle that landed on Normandy Beach. What an exciting day just for the whole community.
It really is. I think it's extremely important to thank our veterans, all of our veterans, but we're losing this generation rapidly. And I'm pretty much self-serving. I want to hear some stories, and I'm going to make them tell some stories today. So I'm doing it for myself, probably more than for them.
Yeah, and I think, I'll just say, landing on Normandy Beach was kind of the beginning of the end. That invasion, they started there, and that went after Hitler. That pretty much ended the war over a period of time with all the veterans and a lot of our people there, but it was also Allied service members from all over the country, all over the world, working together to put an end to Hitler. It's just, John does a lot in the community. It's just one more great thing he's doing for the community. He does a fabulous job, creates a lot of jobs, one of the most successful entrepreneurs and restaurant owners in our region. I can't applaud him enough for all he's doing, especially today with the veterans.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's super.
Yeah.
It's a great day. Good morning to all of you, and welcome to the greatest generation. We're glad you could all be here today. We have 62 veterans from World War II today, and I don't know if you noticed, but we have 2 that are Iwo Jima survivors that just met again. So both Farrell and John both survived Iwo Jima and just happened to be here on the same day. So we're going to have a great day. This is just the start of many things. So thank you guys very, very much. If you guys will all rise with me, we're going to present the colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we've hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we've watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you, Cassie. If you'll also join me in the Pledge of Allegiance before the color guard is dismissed. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I was watching an early morning news program yesterday morning, and they had a retired Major General who was on the beach at Normandy yesterday, and he was also there 70 years ago. He landed there. I cannot remember his name after watching it. But he was telling the reporter that he said it's very, very important that your generation, that you men and women that were in World War II become reporters. It's very important that you report your stories, tell your stories. He said there are a lot of historians telling the story, but not many of them are getting it right. And so in the spirit of there's no such thing as a free lunch, we're going to make some of you guys and girls work for your lunch today, and we're going to ask you to report a story to us. So think about that while we're having lunch and while we have some other people come and say thanks before we get started. But I want you guys to be our reporters today. And so we've invited a lot of people today to help, to encourage, to put a microphone, to put a camera in your face, and to get these stories from you. We're counting on you being our reporters. We don't want to rely on some historian to get it wrong when we've got firsthand information. I know my Uncle Louis has been a little bereft in telling stories, but I'm going to get him telling stories too. So you may be first, Uncle Louis. Today we have with us Bob Schweiger is right in the middle. Bob landed on Normandy on D-Day. We're glad to have Bob with us. We have Tom Boza, who landed on the cover of Life magazine. I don't know if you guys realize that or not, but in the picture on Life magazine, on that that very, very famous cover, the unconditional surrender, where the nurse and the sailor are kissing, Tom is standing right behind him in that picture. He's got a copy, I'll guarantee you, if you want to see it. I asked Tom, I said, so why weren't you kissing the nurse? He said he was next in line, I believe. So we're glad to have Tom with us as well. And as I said, we had someone land from Clemson, South Carolina, who also landed on Normandy on D+4, and that's my Uncle Louis Sin. So we're glad to have you with us. So before we get started, I've got a couple of people that want to come up and say thanks, and I'm going to start with our local congressman, Vern Buchanan, who's a dear friend of ours and yours.
What a great turnout. Originally, they thought we were going to have about 12 World War II veterans. They have 62. That's incredible, John. John is a great entrepreneur, runs 3 restaurants, creates a lot of good jobs, been a leader in Manatee County. Let's give him a big round of applause and all his people here. Someone said, well, it's about the free lunch. You got to earn your lunch. But I talked to a couple of World War II veterans coming in. They said it's not about the lunch. It's about those free margaritas. That we want to get some free margaritas. Then we'll tell you some really good stories. But anyway, I'm glad to be here on behalf of Washington, the United States government, to celebrate and recognize not only your service for everybody here, because I agree, this is the greatest generation. We appreciate what you did. But remember the 70th anniversary. On that given day, there were 73,000 American soldiers and obviously people in the Navy. My dad served in the Navy during World War II. Unfortunately, he's not here today. We had 5,000 ships, 13,000 aircrafts that hit the shores in France and Normandy, and it was the beginning of the end for Hitler. Let's give you all a big round of applause for that and for your service. Also, I'm just so excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to remember this day 70 years ago. It was one of the largest and one of the bloodiest conflicts we've ever had in terms of World War II, but we were victorious. We wouldn't have been victorious in my mind without America. But again, it's incredible what you've done. In the state of Florida, we have 97,000 veterans, or 97,000 World War II veterans. In this area, we have quite a few veterans that are still here in terms of World War II. But I just want to say, from the bottom of my heart, anything I can do as your representative. We do work with a lot of veterans. A lot of people will come in and sometimes have pins or things that they should have got but didn't get. We work very closely with a lot of them, and we establish those. But let us know what we can do. We have an office in downtown Bradenton and downtown Sarasota. We're here for you. I served about 4 years in the VA. We've got some challenges. We're going to fix that. But there's anything we can do to help you, we're going to be there for you. Thank you, and God bless all of you, and God bless America.
I know Congressman Buchanan has probably 4 more engagements before 1 o'clock, so he may cut out. But if you need to say hello or catch him, please do. But thank you very, very much for being with us today. Appreciate your time. Next up, we've got our mayor, Wayne Poston, the mayor of the city of Bradenton. We're glad to have Wayne. We have a flyover for you, too.
That's a flyover is great. The congressman was right. I came for the margaritas. So I don't know. I'm Wayne Poston. I'm the mayor of the city of Bradenton, United States Air Force veteran, and active now in the Wounded Warrior program here. So it's an honor and a privilege to be here and talk to you men and women. I have a proclamation from the city that I'd like to read. By virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Bradenton, I do hereby issue this proclamation honoring D-Day Remembrance Day, June 6, 2014. Whereas 70 years ago, more than 130,000 Allied troops landed on the shores of Normandy with more than 5,000 ships and 13,000 aircraft to begin an invasion that is now known as D-Day. Whereas the Allied troops fought tirelessly to be victorious and hinder the German troops in their quest for world domination. And whereas, although they faced great opposition, the troops relentlessly pursued their objective and proved that we are committed to defend freedom and liberty for all. Whereas many lost their lives on that fateful day, they did not falter and demonstrated strength and dignity when under enemy fire. They believed in the legacy of freedom and were willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for their country and its citizens. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Wayne H. Poston, as mayor of the city of Bradenton, Florida, do hereby proclaim June 6, 2014 as D-Day Remembrance Day in Bradenton and urge all citizens to honor and remember these brave soldiers, sailors, and airmen. It is their spirit of patriotism that should reside in each and every citizen. It is because of their heroism that we live in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mayor Poston. We appreciate your time as well. We know you've got a lot of obligations as well. I'm going to introduce Paul Matthews, who is representing Representative Congressman David Jolly from Pinellas County. He's going to come up in a little while. I'm going to introduce him now, but he's going to talk in a little while because Paul Matthews is a retired naval commander, and before coming to work for Congressman Jolly, he taught at the Naval War College, and they use D-Day as part of their curriculum. And so he's got a great talk for everybody, and he's probably going to need some information to make sure he's telling the right stories in his program as well. So Paul will come up, but thanks for being here today, Paul, and I'll reintroduce him in just a bit. But thanks to Congressman Jolly for allowing you to come down and join us. All right, we're going to have lunch. We're going to relax, talk among yourselves, and then we'll come back, and we're going to ask some of you to tell some stories. So the servers will... if anybody's ready to tell a story, we'll be happy to take one right now. Anybody have a story they want to tell? I can bring the microphone to you if you'd like. I got one volunteer. Perfect.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for your hospitality here. It's just great today. I'm Bob Warren. I'm a veteran of World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. I've always said the Marine Corps doesn't discriminate. If you're in the Corps and there's a war, you go. They don't overlook you. I'd like to tell a story about not World War II, but Korea, where I flew helicopters in support of the 1st Marine Division. And one night, we picked up a casualty from a medical company and we're heading out to the hospital ship. There were no navigation aids or anything, and helicopters were fairly new at that time. And all at once, we were on instruments in the mountains of South Korea. I told my co-pilot named Lou Street, we're going to make a turn and come out of here. And we did that and then came back, and I spotted a light down below, and I said, Lou, that's where we're going to spend tonight. So we went whirling down there, and the next morning we got up and looked, and we'd landed right beside about a 500-foot cliff. I don't know how I missed it. I guess we just made tight turns. But anyhow, we missed it. That's what's important. But what I wanted to really say was the doctors there, it was a medical company that had not leapfrogged forward with the division because they'd had a fire. But they were still there, and that was a good place to leave our casualty. Well, the doctors there, it was just before Christmas in 1951, and the doctors there had a Christmas card that you were supposed to send to somebody back home who hadn't been to Korea. And it was a nice scene. You're looking out the window at Santa Claus and the reindeer out in the yard. But here's what I like to tell. It was the verse that those doctors came up with. It said, "Christmas greetings from old Korea, land of lice and diarrhea. From these shores we've half mastered. Merry Christmas, you lucky bastard."
Very good. Thank you very much, Bob. We probably need to start those for Christmas cards again. We could put Hallmark back to business, I'm telling you, with that one. That's very good. Anyone else like to tell us a story? I've got one right over here.
This is not a story. I would like to ask if there's anybody here from the 370th Fighters Group. We served in England, we served in France and Germany. I'd like to ask if there's anybody here from the 370th 401st Fighter Squadron.
Anyone from the 370th 407th Fighter Squadron? 401st, my apologies. 401st. Anyone? All right. We do have a gentleman from the RAF. We're glad to have you with us. Thank you very much. My wife's father was a pilot in the RAF. He originally was in the Royal Artillery, but he didn't like that because he wanted to be a flyboy, because they say the flyboys get all the girls, right? So he put in a transfer to join the RAF, and so he flew Spitfires, Hurricanes, and Mustangs. And his flight documents are on the table here, and they are unbelievable how detailed they are. So we had opened them up, and he was in the air on June 6th in a hurricane, and it's got everywhere he went, how long his duration, the tail numbers, everything. If you get a chance, his airman's helmet is there with his initials on it, and so forth. So it's really interesting, the details. He kept a journal all through World War II. It's very, very interesting to read. Anyone else? I'll start calling you out if you're not careful.
Without a doubt, it was one of the best things that I have ever done. If you don't know about the Honor Flight, they're a group that puts together a group of veterans. There was 80 on my flight, and each one has a guardian, and they pay their own way. The flight itself is paid for by all volunteer money, and they take you from St. Pete up to Washington, D.C., and they feed you breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's no charge at all. The sites, of course, at Washington, the World War II Memorial in particular, was very, very beautiful. It was just a wonderful day. And the thing that really astounded me was that when we came back and we were an hour or so late getting back, there was still people there to greet us. There was every branch of the military represented, not just one person, but maybe a dozen from each branch of the service. And then when you ran out of service people, there was civilians who had waited all that time to stand and clap as you came through the line and clasp your hand. And then, of course, the highlight was the young girls at the end that were dressed like wax. They were called the Bomber Girls, and they all gave you a big hug, and that was pretty good. So all in all, it's a wonderful thing. It doesn't cost you anything. All you have to do is make application, and they'll take really good care of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So it's a wonderful day. I've spoken to many the World War II vets that have gone up and seen the monument, seen the World War II memorial. It's just a very, very inspirational day. I understand it's real exciting flying up, and it's very, very quiet flying home because everyone is absolutely exhausted by the end of the day. It's a busy day for people. It really is. But if you do get a chance, or if you see anything and you can make the time, make sure you do get to that. It is outstanding. Outstanding. Here we got a story here from Don.
I have no story. I'm just going to say I don't have any story. I just want to say I'm sure glad I'm one of the great generation of United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Don. You certainly are. You certainly are. We appreciate you. I didn't want to be the first, so thank you. Yeah. These two gentlemen sitting here flew together in Okinawa. They flew in the same aircraft together. Same squadron. So, and they've been friends here in Bradenton together ever since then. And they still sit next to each other and have lunch. Yeah. All right, I've got a question for everyone. Did anyone, and I asked this gentleman when he came in, if he lied about his age to get into the military. Because we were trying to figure out when we discovered it was the 70th anniversary of D-Day, so we're trying to back up that the people were anywhere from 18 to 22, give or take, in 1914. So you'd be 88 to 92. And so I asked if you lied about your age, because I know several people lied to get in because you weren't old enough to get in the military. So has anybody been perpetuating that lie for 70 years now? If you want to come clean, we'll let you come clean right here. You're going to tell us your real age. We won't tell your wife, and we won't tell your husband. You know? You told the truth and you got in. Very good. You had to be 18 at the time, correct? 17? You could serve at 17? In the time of war, they probably, as you said, the Marines, they'll take anyone in any war, correct? Anyone, anytime, any war? Very good. Well, I see food is coming out from the kitchen, so please enjoy your lunch. Stop me. I'll be happy to stick a microphone in and let you talk any chance you want. We really appreciate it. I'm going to ask Paul to come out once everybody gets lunch. And so while you're eating, he's going to give a story that he brought with him from Congressman Jolly's office. So, bon appetit. Anybody need a margarita? We have several.
This is an amazing thing. This is that part of that greatest generation we talk about, and you see this many people show up. They still care about each other. That's what it represents. We thought initially we'd have 12 people here. We had 62. But that's because they support each other. That's how we won World War II and got rid of Hitler, and that's how they came into Normandy. So it's just terrific to be here. I'm a veteran, but boy, nothing like what these guys went through. It's interesting, and it's great that they can share stories and ask about, was anybody in my unit, so I can see them. And they're still innovative and creative guys, although it was 70 years ago. I saw one guy come in with a cane, and he's got a wooden saw handle on the top of his cane. So it's just great to see him and see this kind of people. John and Amanda are special people no matter what, but you know, it's really part of everything we talk about Bradenton. Bradenton being a friendly city, we support each other, we're collaborative, we work together, and John, I think, agrees with me. You know, it's not worth having anything if you don't share it with your friends, and John lives that. What can you say about it? I wish we still had the same sense of belonging and being together that we had in World War II. I fear that that's getting away from us, and I just wish we could come back and feel the way we feel about each other. These guys did. I wish we could do that today. I don't want to lose that.
All righty, we're back. We're back with you. Enjoy your lunch. Take your time. I have one question that George Nagy, George, hold your arm up with your pen. George wants to know, when you guys, and I'm assuming all of you got an honorable discharge, but when you were all honorably discharged, did you also get a ruptured duck pin? George found his 6 months ago. He's got it in his hand. If you don't have one and you haven't seen one in 50, 60, 70, 80 years. What's that, George? He's got his pin with him if you'd like to see one. And he wanted to know how many of you guys still have your ruptured duck. I gotta see that. Wow. That is outstanding. Thank you very much, George. All right, while you're eating, Paul Matthews is going to take the microphone for a few minutes, and he's got a great talk for you. So enjoy, everyone.
Well, thank you very much, John. I really appreciate it, and all the restaurant staff. We really appreciate you providing this opportunity to our veterans. First, on behalf of Congressman Jolly, he sends his regrets for not being able to attend today, and on his behalf, I'd like to thank you for inviting us to be able to participate in this special 70th anniversary remembrance of the landings at Normandy, France on the 6th day of June, 1944. As fellow brothers in arms, and particularly those from World War II, we know that there have been hundreds of days called D-Day in battles across the globe, though the one that brought Allied forces to the shores of France to begin Operation Overlord has special significance, and so it has become that we simply refer to this day as D-Day. Today, we take the time out of our busy lives to honor those that served in that battle, which is likely the most significant turning point in the European theater of operations, to liberate the people of Europe from the tyranny of Hitler's Nazi Germany. We pause to remember the sacrifices of those that fell that day, to their comrades that continue to fight for freedom throughout Europe and the Pacific theater until victory was won. We especially want to express our gratitude to the veterans of that conflict that are here today. For without the courage, the determination, and the dedication to duty that you demonstrated that day as young men on the battlefield, the world would have been a far different place for us growing up. I'd like to share and take a few minutes to share a few thoughts on how D-Day has come to a place in history where we look at the events surrounding it and as teaching tools to our modern-day warriors. The perspective that I will use is that of a meteorologist. That's right, a weatherman. You see, I was an oceanographer in the Navy, and I just retired back in September. Until September of last year, I was a military professor at the Naval War College. And we use D-Day as an example of how significantly the weather and the oceanography environment can impact military operations. Those of you that were there on that day may recollect that the 6th of June was not actually the originally scheduled day for those operations. In fact, in the 2 years leading up to Overlord, the date was moved around quite a bit. If we look at the normal weather patterns of the English Channel, we can see why. As early as 1942, the Allies had determined that the invasion across the English Channel, the invasion force across the English Channel, was required in order to assure victory. And to land such a force, several critical weather and oceanography factors had to occur. The best conditions for the landings, for those of you that were in the Marine Corps will know this, you needed to have a very low tide to ensure that the landing craft could see obstacles on the beaches, and so that there was enough room on those beaches to land the very large force. The seas needed to be calm to prevent seasickness and to minimize the danger of capsizing landing craft. The skies needed to be clear to allow the Allied air forces to provide air cover for the operations. And the visibility needed to be at least 3 miles for effective naval shore bombardment. Many of you, I'm sure, were on those naval ships that provided that bombardment. And it was also desired that the operations start on a full moon to allow illumination at night for those operations that happened during the night of the 5th and 6th. Finally, it was desired that a period of calm weather be in place for the day of D-Day itself and for several days after, so that the combat power of reinforcements and resupply could occur and keep the momentum of that operation going as the breakout into the heart of France occurred. In looking at our historical weather patterns, the Allied planners saw that mid-April and early May were actually the best times of year to conduct that operation. However, as the time drew near for that operation, it was also realized that the force needed to be much larger than originally planned because of the German defenses. This change necessitated a delay in the operation until early June, with the realization that more frequent storms were likely to occur. In order to take advantage of the full moon that they needed and the best tides of the month in June, June 4th, 5th, and 6th were actually chosen as the likely dates, and June 5th was the most preferred. At the end of May and around the 1st of June, as all the plans were beginning to put into place and the ships started to be put into place to load with material and men, at that time, General Eisenhower's weather team, led by a British group captain, Captain James Stagg. I know we have a Royal Air Force person back in the back, so we were definitely working together as allies, and it was actually an allied British weather officer that did the weather forecasting for General Eisenhower. He saw the development of two major North Atlantic storms that would come across England and the English Channel about the time of the planned landing on the 5th. So indeed, on the 4th of June, as the last ships were being loaded and ready to cross the channel that night, Captain Stagg briefed General Eisenhower that the conditions in the channel and at the beaches of Normandy would be untenable for landings on the 5th. The young meteorologist, using the advice of his team and the best weather information he had available at the time, made a forecast that changed the course of history. He recommended to General Eisenhower that the weather would calm just enough on the 6th of June and stay that way for just about 48 hours that they could do the landing. General Eisenhower took the recommendation and acted on it, and ordered the landings to be changed from the 5th of June to the 6th. As we know from our records, and many of you that remember being there, the weather was less than perfect in the English Channel on that day. Particularly on the seas. The seas were quite rough on the 6th of June, and a lot of folks got seasick, and there were actually craft that were capsized in the landing in the surf zone. The skies, though, were clear enough for air cover, and the visibility was good enough for effective naval shore bombardment. The key point is that the weather held for about 48 hours, as expected, just long enough for the Allies to conduct the landings and also to gain a foothold that they needed to make the breakout into France. Had they waited any longer than the 6th, if they had waited to the next available time, which was June the 17th, they would have experienced a very significant storm. In fact, the strongest storm of all of 1944 in the English Channel. And they would have had to delay the operation again, and it would have been several months before they would have been able to again attempt the crossing of the English Channel. The outcome of that change would have dramatically affected the outcome of the war. Germany would have had a chance to rebuild their defenses and strengthen their defenses in the coast of France, and also turn their attention to the east where they were fighting Russia. That delay most assuredly affected how Germany was impacted by our invasion. The lessons that we take from how the environment affected Operation Overlord and your all involvement on the 6th of June are applied to teaching operational planning to today's generation of military leaders. At the Naval War College, we study operational art. The D-Day events clearly demonstrate how the operational factors of time, space, and force all come together to form the backdrop of military operations. The time of year the planning for the operation was significant because of the expected storms, the tides, the moon. The location was important because we needed suitable beaches to land such a large force. And finally, every member of the Allied force, whether you were landing in the landing craft, whether you were on the ships conducting the naval bombardment or the crossing of the channel, or whether you were in the aircraft providing air cover and dropping paratroopers, you all were affected by the environment that day. Every aspect of Overlord was impacted in some way by the environment, and we teach our leaders today, it reminds them to look at the skies and the seas and understands the hazard and opportunities presented by them and be prepared to fight and win. As Sun Tzu claimed to have said in his writings centuries ago, know the ground, and know the weather, your victory will then be total. In closing, I want to thank our D-Day veterans today for the legacy of leadership that you have left for generations of American fighting men and women to come. May God bless you, and thank you so much for your service.
Well, first of all, it's just incredible that John Hord would reach out to the community and put on such an event like this. So I'm very, very proud of my friend John, and thank him very much for doing this. That's significant. But over 80 veterans is just incredible, and that they live in our area. As I said a minute ago in the other room, I mean, they are truly the greatest generation. 70th anniversary of D-Day. I could not imagine doing what they did and going through what they went through to protect our freedoms and the great things that we enjoy in our country. So we should be ever indebted to them for generation after generation. But it's just incredible to see all these good folks here today. It really does. I mean, not to sound cliche, but I mean, you get chills just thinking about these men and these soldiers and what they did at such a young age. It's incredible. I hope I could do that if I were called to duty at that age, but it's just incredible that they gave so much and so willingly made that sacrifice. So it's really, really heartwarming to see them today. Well, first of all, I think our community ought to know that we do have a large population of veterans, and that's very significant. But second, and equally as important, remember the sacrifices they made so we can enjoy the freedoms that we enjoy today. Without their sacrifices, who knows what this country would be like. So we enjoy everything we enjoy today because of sacrifices of these men and women that were in this room.
All right, we've got another story. Walter's ready to tell us his story.
This has to do with the tides again when we were over in Okinawa. The tides there were somewhere around 20 foot. And the time we made the invasion in Korea at Incheon, the tide was 32 feet. The 15th of September 1950, we invaded the area there at Incheon. That'd be like hitting the beach here at where we are right now, in fact, in Florida. It's that type of peninsula. At any rate, when we were down there in Okinawa in the Second World War, right at the end, in August, I had just gotten over there with a transport, C-2 transport ship, with these ducks, and we would load the ducks up with supplies and take them into Neha. At any rate, we got into Neha to do that, and all of a sudden we got orders to ship out because we had to ride out a typhoon on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th of August of 1950. We went out to sea and rode it out, and I remember watching the Hornet, the aircraft carrier Hornet, hit one of those waves, and the bow of it was tipped right up, and they had to turn around and go in reverse to Lingayen Gulf to be repaired. We got orders as soon as the typhoon passed by to get back there. They needed supplies there. We loaded up our ducks and went into Neha, and they hadn't allowed for the fact the tide could get blown out, and it got blown out with the typhoon to a lower area than what they had thought when they tried to detect the mines. And there were underwater mines that they hadn't detected, and of course, when we went in there with our little LCVPs, we ran into those mines, and they just annihilated the boat and the crew. I lucked out, ended up in the hospital, Aya Hospital in Honolulu, Aya Hospital in Honolulu. But at any rate, the humorous part of the fact was that little duck that we brought in was loaded with R&H Brewery beer from Staten Island, New York, which I remember real well, and also the 3.2 beer and peanuts. And when I got up on my feet to crawl around, I was able to get the guy who was the coxswain of the LCVP we had safely out of there, and we got to shore. He was cut up pretty badly. The bowman was killed, and I ended up going to the hospital at Honolulu. I still have trouble with my right shoulder. But anyway, the good Lord took care of us. God bless it. Praise the Lord. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much, Warren. I have another gentleman that just came in that wanted to say thank you to you all. Just drove in very, very rapidly, I'm sure, from Miami, but it's our local state representative, Jimmy Boyd.
Thank you, John, and thank you all for letting me just say a couple words. And I really didn't, I was hoping to get here, but it was a quick trip this morning. But I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for all you've done for our country. You allow me and my children and their children to do what they want to do in America because of your sacrifice and what you gave to our great country. So I can't imagine what you went through, but you are truly the greatest generation, and we will be forever grateful for everything that you've done and the sacrifices that you made for us. So thank you very much. It's terrific that on this 70th anniversary today that we're able to be here and that you're being honored by John Horn and his wonderful team. I'm so happy that he is able to do these things for his community. But thank you so much for everything you've done for us. Thank you for giving us the freedoms and the privileges that we enjoy today. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate you being here. Clarence? Clarence, they're telling me that you were directing traffic on D-Day. Is that correct? Will you share?
I was directing the flights to bomb targets and also to the aircraft that was flying with the gliders and the paratroopers. And our outfit was the only one that I know of that was directing 1,500 aircraft, including British aircraft, the count. And I was up 3 days and 3 nights without sleep doing what we did. We had 65 stations throughout England. They call them VHF, directional finding, which were the types of aircraft control units, and we directed the flights on that day. And there were like 385 guys in my outfit, and about half of us were doing this job. And it went on for 3 days before we were relieved of the duty by Eisenhower. It was really quite an experience.
Well, I'd have to say you did a damned good job those 3 days, because I think you directed the artillery just perfectly.
We did what we were ordered to do. All I can say is thanks for being able to be here today. Thank you very much. Bye.
Well, we're here today because of what you and your fellow vets have done. So thank you. Thank you very much, Clarence. That is awesome. That is awesome. Since my Uncle Louie won't tell about himself, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Uncle Louie. Uncle Louie lives in Clemson, South Carolina, and I don't know how many of y'all know it, but there's a wonderful, fabulous university in Clemson, South Carolina called Clemson University that I happened to graduate from in 1983. Uncle Louie worked there at the Regulatory and Pesticide Regulatory Committee there. But Uncle Louie was 17-year-old sophomore at Clemson College at the time when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Uncle Ed was a little bit younger than he was. And since it was early December, most of the cadets there decided they would wait till the end of their semester to sign up for service, but most did. Uncle Louie didn't enlist until 1943. Is that correct? He was in the 9th Division and he had been shipped to England on the Queen Mary, which was just basically another troop ship at the time. The night before they landed, Sergeant Sin won $200 playing poker and placed his winnings in a money belt. Uncle Louie and his man landed on Normandy on D-Day +4, as they called it, June 10th. He said the sea was red. The bodies of dead soldiers were everywhere, including parachutists in trees, steeples, and tanks still in flames. There were thousands of dead, bloated animals, horses, cattle, pigs, He said the stench was overwhelming. They were there to police up. There was still Jerry machine gun nests in the area, and thousands of soldiers were still hitting the beach. On the morning of June 21st, Sergeant Sen and his men came upon one of the machine gun nests and opened fire. Uncle Louis fell down, thinking he had stepped in a hole. He tried to get back up and immediately fell down again, and that's when he knew he had been hit. A medic, who would be killed later that day, came to and field dressed him, and Sergeant Sen was shipped back across the English Channel. The doctor said to him after surgery that every day he told one soldier that he was the luckiest man of the day. He told Uncle Louis he would not believe a German machine gun bullet could go between the femoral artery and the femur without hitting one or the other. If he had hit the artery, he would have bled out. The femur, months on crutches, and maybe lost the leg. Sergeant Sen's money belt was covered in his blood, as was the $200. Sergeant Sen would be assigned to guard Eisenhower's headquarters, a very choice assignment, and then later Mont Saint-Michel, not so choice assignment. He was guarding the top Nazi officers glad to be out of the war, and heinous Americans guilty of rape, arson, or murder, who would do anything to escape their fate, which was to be hanged. The next battle for the 9th was the Battle of the Bulge, and Uncle Louis has never spoken of it because he lost too many buddies. Sergeant Sen was 19 years old on D-Day. He'll be 90 in August. We're glad to have you with us. I'm very proud of you, Uncle Louis. Thank you very much. Now, if he wants to defend that, he can. I have a question. Does anyone know anyone or remember anyone from the Saco Rice Paddy Navy? Saco Rice Paddy Navy? Imogene, you want to tell us about it?
Yes. My husband was in the... he joined when he was 16, my first husband, and he lied about his age and changed his birth certificate.
I knew there was one.
He was selling newspapers on the street, and he didn't come home, and his mother wondered where he was, and finally he called her, and he said, "Mom, I'm in Sampson, New York, and I'm in the Navy." But anyway, he signed up for extra hazardous duty because it paid more. And they sent him to Okeechobee, not Okeechobee, what's?
Everglades.
Everglades, to train and out in the ocean. And they trained in underwater demolition. But anyway, he went to China and taught the guerrillas how to fight underwater demolition. And, but he ended up at the beach. But his story was, when we got married, he said, "I will tell you right now, do not ever, ever cook lamb in this house." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because that day, the cook on the ship was cooking lamb, and you know, it is very pungent." And he said, "I associate that smell with the sight of all the bodies laying in the water." And he said, "I can't eat lamb." But anyway, I just wondered if there was anybody here that was in that unit. They were the forerunners of the Navy SEALs. They have a Navy SEAL museum in Fort Pierce, and I found his name over there and his picture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Imogene. So no one had heard of the Saco Rice Paddy Navy? Nope. All right. SACO, is that right?
John, I wonder if I could say a word. If anybody here from the 9th Division, I'd appreciate them speaking to me, especially from the 39th Infantry Regiment. If you recall, our logo on our helmets and all was AAA bar nothing, and it meant anywhere, anything, anytime bar nothing, or after Adolph's ass only. If you know anything about this outfit, give me a buzz. And I also want to thank Clemson University for teaching John so well to to give back and to do something like he's done today.
Thank you so much. If anyone does know of Uncle Louis, you can get in touch with me here, and I can get you in touch with Uncle Louis quickly.
Hi, I'm Al Shutter, and I'm just concerned. My wife and I were talking. Here we're talking about D-Day. What does D stand for? How many people know?
I think probably everybody in the room knows. Does anyone know what D-Day stands for? The D?
The D, the H, the D-1, they all refer to just the departure day, the day that the operations start. So that's correct, and that right, and so exactly. So they always use D+1, D+2, D-1, D-2 because they don't know the exact day. Just like I said, it was originally planned for the 5th, but it ended up being the 6th. But we will, as I said, also we will always remember the 6th of June, 1944, Normandy invasion as D-Day. There have been hundreds, if not thousands, of D-Days in all the battles of our nation's wars. Absolutely.
Very good. So we've all learned something today. That's a good thing. My dad, who is a Korean War veteran, always told me that I needed to learn something every day. And so I can call it a day now, Dad? I can go home? All right. My day is done. I'd love to hear some more stories, and I know Charles and the group from METV is recording. They're going to do a special with some of your stories. If you'd like to stay afterwards and do a one-on-one with the METV guys, not MTV, METV, they would love to have your stories. They would absolutely love to have your stories. Anyone have one they want to share with everyone? How about one from the RAF? We'll have one for right here, but I'll check as well.
Hi. I had my hand up first because in school, and he didn't see it, in school, I was always the first one to get up to get it over with. But anyway, in the WAAC, I had to be 21 to get in. And we all worked hard to get in with the Army. So they finally took us, and I got to go overseas as a teletype operator. And during the time I was there in London, there was a message coming through. I was a trick chief in the teletype room, and I got the message when FDR died. And we were all feeling very bad, but we didn't even know it because it was in code, and it had to be sent to the cryptographic room before we knew what anything happened. So when we were disbanded after the first part of the war was over, I was sent to Paris, and I was asked to go to Wiesbaden, Germany for rehabilitation. And I had 92 points, and I said, no, I'm going home. And Captain Sullivan said, you've been appointed to be sergeant so many times, you could be made a sergeant. Just please stay with us 3 more months. And I said, no, thank you. And he asked me if I'd rather have turkey and all the goodies for Thanksgiving, and I said, no thanks. I'll just be happy to have a cheese sandwich if I can get on that ship to go home. And that's my story. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, John and I realized the significance of the year a couple of months ago, and we just felt that it was a wonderful way to recognize our veterans because there's not many World War II veterans left.
And we're losing them every day. So it was just a perfect opportunity to get them together, to commemorate 70 years since D-Day. And it was just a way to get them all from the area together and hear some stories. We heard this, that most of them aren't telling stories. And we got a chance to get them all together, and a lot of them told some great stories today. I was amazed.
And it was a great way to get Uncle Louis to come visit.
There was the whole ulterior motive, to get Uncle Louis to Florida. Well, that was the neat part, because when we first started thinking, we were like, if we're lucky, we'll get 12, maybe 20 veterans, because we just didn't think we could reach out and find that many people and get them all to attend. And then 20 went to 30 in a hurry, and then 45. And yesterday we were expecting 62. And today we had 84 World War II veterans. We had members from the RAF.
Yep.
We had some WWIIs. We had 2 Iwo Jima survivors. We had a survivor from Pearl Harbor Day. And I think there are only 3 left in our state. And one of them was with us today. So we just had a great network. We had friends from all over Manatee and Sarasota County help us find veterans, reach out to veterans. The newspaper, the press was a huge help to find veterans, and everybody came out. I'm not sure if it was the margaritas. I think it was to come to see everybody else and to celebrate D-Day.
Well, my dad was an RAF pilot. He joined the RAF in 1941, but to me, he never really told his stories, because I think a lot of veterans don't do that or haven't done that. And I'm so sorry that he didn't. I have his logbooks, I have his diaries, and after he lost a crewmate or a fellow fighter pilot, it would go blank for a couple of days and he wouldn't write. And so just the impact of that one war is so huge, and we owe our freedom to these men and women. And I wish that I had probably honored him more when he was alive. So
that's where the idea came, to honor the people that are still with us. And this was just a great way to do it, to bring them to the restaurant and to put a microphone in front of them, to put a camera in front of them and tell them to tell us a story. Let them report the stories, because they have some great stories. There were a lot of misty eyes with the 2 Iwo Jima survivors. They realized that they were both in the same room and they had not met each other. They both live here in Bradenton, and they got a chance to sit and talk, and I'm sure they'll have coffee or meals together in the very near future and rehash some of their stories. So it was a chance. I mean, people were asking out which regiment they were in, if anybody else was in it. They were asking for waves. They were asking just if anyone had a connection. And there were several that had the connection and got to talk. So that was outstanding.
just to connect them.
Yes. I can't tell you how much that meant, because they found out that we were honoring the veterans, and they were like, I definitely want to be there. I mean, they came at different times because their schedules were busy, but they made a point to be here. They wanted to say thank you to the greatest generation, and that was just outstanding, the people that did show up. And Congressman Jolly sent his aide, and he told a great story about D-Day, and I think it helped all of them to not to relive it, but to hear some of the points that he brought. He's a professor as well, so that was awesome. Really, really awesome. Well, I mean, that wasn't easy. It's almost a no-brainer. We were thanking them. They didn't need to thank us. They had paid their lunch ticket years ago. It was our chance to thank them, and to I know they thought that they got the best end of the deal, but we definitely got the best end of the deal. My staff has just been, I mean, you can't wipe the smiles off their faces. I've had a couple of them come up to me right after, said they've never been more proud to work someplace in their life. It's awesome.
And so many came up and said, oh my gosh, I was listening to that, and I've been in tears just listening to the stories. So I think it is a wonderful thing for younger people to hear these stories, to realize what these veterans went through to give us the opportunities we have today. So
we're very fortunate, very fortunate. It's one of the best days I've had, and I can't tell you how long. Just the way that people enjoyed their day, the way they enjoyed being with people, the way they enjoyed telling each other stories, the way they just sat elbow to elbow, shoulder to shoulder, and really regaled in a wonderful, I mean, it's a terrible story, but it was a wonderful day that they could relive, that they could talk about. They could talk about World War II, and I even got my Uncle Louis to tell a story I had never heard before, so that made it all worthwhile.
During the war, we were in submarines patrolling Tokyo Bay, and near the end of the war, we got word that there was a prisoner of war island in the bay, and we approached it. Two of us went, 2 rubber rafts went ashore. We found the prison camp, but it was empty. There was nobody in there. The officers, no Japanese, nothing. When we getting ready to leave, one of the guys spotted. He says, "There's a movement back in the back cabin." So we went all the way back there. We found nine people. There was 5 Americans and 4 Australians, and some of them couldn't walk. Some were doing. So we pulled them out there, and we pulled the Japanese flag down, and we're going to put the American flag up. This is where it gets touchy. We took a flag that we had taken off the submarine. We were just ready to hook it up when one of these guys that couldn't walk came out of the crowd, grabbed the flag, and kissed it. That's what he meant for the flag.
Thank you so very, very much. All right, I got another story, and then don't let me close the program without Gary Sweetman talking, because I've already forgotten once.
Okay, no, you might want to hear it first.
No, go ahead. They've heard worse than I have. They've lived through worse.
Well, when I was on the honor flight in June, I met a woman Marine, and she said, "Do you know what they called us?" I said, "No." She said, "We were called BAMs, B-A-M." I said, "What does that stand for?" She said, "Broad-ass Marines."
And she lived up to her name? We have a couple of waves in the audience. Is that correct? Do we have a wave, I think, in uniform, don't we? Can you stand up for us? Just so you know, I'll keep you guys here all day. Don't worry about that. I won't let you go. Right, straight there. Michael's trying to get her to stand up. There she is. She's in her uniform as well. Thank you so very much. And so is Barbara.
Hi, I'm Barbara DeRosso, and I would like for all of us to thank John and Amanda for this wonderful party they put on for us today.
Thank you so much. All right, I got another story, but before you leave, we want to get a picture of everyone as well, so hold on.
Kilroy was here.
I'm sure you all saw that many, many times. You have a mic? All right. Gary Sweetman is going to tell a story for us.
Right. Hello. Well, I'm Gary Sweetman, and actually I'm here in 2 capacities today. The first, you've seen me around taking your photographs, and so right now I'm going to get a group picture of everybody in here and you guys back there as well, so hang on one second. Look this way, I can work without the mic. This is everybody looking toward me. We'll stitch these together. Here we go. Looking in here. Everybody. Yeah, it really does get you all in. Yep. One more time. Amazing. Okay. Now, don't go away. 1 second. Okay. Now, my second, number 2, I'm a very poor stand-in for somebody I know would be very proud to have joined you today. 70 years ago today, Staff Sergeant Warren A. Sweetman, a member of the Big Red 1, the 1st Infantry Division, was coming ashore on Omaha Beach. Anybody here from the Big Red 1? Anybody 1st Infantry? It was a very proud group of men. Warren was a forward observer. That's the guy who goes out front with a very heavy, short-range walkie-talkie radio. It's about the size of 2 loaves of bread. He communicates with the artillery gunners to fine-tune where they're striking. They need to be in sight of the enemy and close enough to see where the shells are exploding. They were told they don't have a very long life expectancy. The radio is critical, and early electronics did not perform well when immersed in seawater, as you know. So when this non-swimming Chicago lad was dropped off a landing craft where people were vomiting for the last 5 hours in about 6 feet of water, rather than the thigh-high water that you usually see of the people coming off the landing crafts, things were not good, as you can imagine. The radio had to be kept dry if it was going to work, and he was going to do his job. And those of you who have all seen the photos of Omaha, and all you vets have been there, it's very open, and the bluff offers virtually no cover. He was hit several times with shrapnel in his legs, and he carried the shrapnel in his knees the day he died. Obviously, he made it, or I wouldn't be here talking to you today. Warren went on. He ultimately won 3 Purple Hearts, the Bronze Star, the Silver Star for repairing a communication line while being wounded. He also won the French Legion of Honor Award. He was badly wounded in a tank explosion at the Battle of the Bulge. Charles from METV did a Memorial Day DVD project with him a few years ago, and METV is going to run that again tonight at 8 p.m. And we thank Charles for doing that. June 6, 1944, 11 months later, the Nazi war machine unconditionally surrenders, fulfilling General Dwight D. Eisenhower's pre-D-Day hopes, saying, "Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Forces, you are about to embark upon a great crusade toward which we have strived these very, very many months. The eyes of the world are upon you, the hopes and prayers of every liberty-loving people everywhere. March with you." A few years ago, I took my family to Normandy, where we had a flag-raising ceremony over the American cemetery there. And it's where many of the formal ceremonies are being held today. The French officials were great. We brought the flag and certificates back to my dad with a lot of great pictures, you can bet on that, who was truly moved. He always wanted to get back there, but it never happened. Warren died a year and a half ago of pancreatic cancer. He almost made it to 90. But don't feel bad. He was generally in fabulous health, loved coroning with his buddies and stuff. It was a quick 3 weeks, and he had made his peace. We should all be so lucky, you know? He knew he would be cremated and asked if I would spread his ashes back at Omaha. I'm going next month to fulfill those dreams. He said I should have died with my buddies, but didn't. Thank you.
I wanted to show everyone the helmet, the air helmet from my father-in-law, and it's got his initials on the front. He was, as I said, an RAF pilot, but this is his helmet that he flew the Hurricanes and the Mustangs and the Spitfires. So it's awesome. And if you look in his flight log, the Royal Air Force Pilot's Flying Logbook, I mean, it's meticulous. But on June 6th, it says he was up in the air, and he marks on there the invasion of D-Day in real unbelievable notes. So if you get a chance, you want time, just look through and enjoy. Someone suggested we have a moment of silence. And if we could all do that, that would be awesome for everyone from D-Day that lost their lives 70 years ago today. So if you'd join me for a moment. Thank you all very, very much. Maverick Johnson has joined us. I know most of you know Maverick. He is one of the biggest supporters for current veterans, for the military. Maverick is with WCTQ, and Maverick, you're awesome. Thanks for your help. Maverick helped us get together with a lot of people. People have asked, where did you find everybody? Maverick's one of the contacts that we use to find people. The Patterson Foundation helped us find people. Manatee Veterans Council, the Military Officers Association of Sarasota and Venice reached out to quite a few of you. There were a lot of people, the VA in Manatee and Sarasota, Lee and Jerry, Andy Hooker, a lot of people helped reach out to people. So we want to thank all of them. It was phenomenal, the help that they gave us. Maverick is a gentleman, yes, a true gentleman. Our brass ensemble from the Anna Maria Island Chorus and Community, thank you. Thank you guys very, very much. There's 5 generations of my family here today with Uncle Louie. So I want to thank my mom for persuading my Uncle Louie to come down. It took a lot to get him on the plane, trust me. So thanks, Mom. And obviously a big thanks to my wife, Amanda. Thank you all. And have a wonderful afternoon. Appreciate you very, very much. We're celebrating D-Day, the 70th anniversary. It's 2014, 70 years later, and my great Uncle Louie Hampton Senn Jr. is in Florida with us. Flew down from Clemson, South Carolina to be with us for our celebration. So we're glad to have Uncle Louie with us. Thanks for coming and joining us, Uncle Louie.
It's my pleasure, John. It's always good to see you, and appreciate the efforts you made to have this event possible.
Well, Uncle Louie, let's ask the most important question. And where did you go to college?
I went to Clemson College, now Clemson University.
And tell me another famous alum from Clemson University.
John Horn.
Wow, that took a little longer than I expected to get that answer.
I thought you were talking about somebody real.
No. No, famous alum. Uncle Louie, we appreciate you being down here. Uncle Louie landed on Normandy on D+4, so he's told us a few stories, but we were hoping that we could get him to tell everyone maybe one fun story, if there was such a thing as fun.
Well, I had a fun day one time. I thought we was going to get killed. We were supposed to take a small seaside village, and it was mined, and they sent 2 tanks to go in front of our company to go in and capture this village. And the commander of the tank refused to go. And my company commander pulled his .45 out and said, "You son of a bitch, you'll go or you won't go. You'll go dead." So we went. And we did not have any casualties. They were surrounded completely, and they just elected to surrender. And we captured 109 people that day. Only casualty was one German soldier that he sort of looked cross-eyed at our lieutenant, and he smacked him upside the head with his carbine.
Wow.
Only casualty I saw that day.
And then you were stationed at Mont Saint Michel for a while as well, is that correct?
At Mont Saint Michel, after I got wounded and got into limited service. And Mont Saint Michel is a famous place, and the Germans were still on the Channel Islands, and we had outposts all up and down the coast to keep them out there. They expected not to try and get them out, and they wouldn't surrender, so they just bypassed them, and after the war they came on out without any problem. But they were afraid that they might come out, and we did have one excursion out, not at my post, but at the post right down, and they were successful in capturing them. But it was a strange war.
Had to have been. So you landed on Normandy on June 10th. How long were you in that general area, or how fast did you move from the beach away?
We moved in right away. We were engaged that same day that we moved in, though. It wasn't very far. And I was fortunate that I got hit on June 21st, and that was the end of my war, but I gave my blood, and you told the story about the lieutenant colonel that checked me out in a aid station, and he said I was the luckiest soldier he'd seen that day. So it was
He had said that he couldn't believe that a German machine gun bullet would go between your femoral artery and the femur and not hit one or the other. So you were very, very lucky.
Yeah.
And then where were you stationed in limited duty after that?
We wound up after the war in Germany was over at a disciplinary training camp at Le Mans, France, where we were training GIs who had done wrong to, if they would agree to go to the Japanese war, to the Philippines, they would get clemency and could go without getting any AWOL and all that crap on their records. So we trained them until the war was over there. And then, fortunately, I got to come home.
Now, your younger brother, Uncle Ed, Uncle Ed's older, sorry, he was in the Pacific. So when did he go in, and where all was Uncle Ed?
He wound up on Leyte, L-E-Y-T-E, and he got the crap kicked out of him somewhere. And we don't really know. He got lost behind the enemy lines. He was a combat medic, and he got involved in a fiasco behind the lines, and he stayed back there a few months before he got recaptured by the Americans, and then he came home. But Ed never did get over it. I remember one time years later, his wife wanted to go to a Japanese restaurant in Columbia. And Ed got up to the door and he said, "Honey, I love you, but I ain't going in here."
So they never had Japanese food, huh?
Never had Japanese food. Hey.
And she was pretty persuasive, so he must really not have wanted to go in.
No, he smelled that food and he remembered something that was bad about his journeying behind Japanese lines.
Now, your division was also at the Battle of the Bulge, is that correct?
That's correct. My division was everywhere. They were in Africa and Sicily, and I joined them in England. And they were one of the most decorated outfits in the war.
And tell me again, what was on your helmet? AAA?
AAA, bar nothing. Anything, anywhere, anytime, bar nothing. Or after Adolph's ass only.
It could go either way, right?
That was a good slogan. And I was proud to have been a part of it. But we had the regimental commander was a Colonel Patty Flint. And he was supposedly
an Irish boy?
Irish boy. He was a classmate at West Point of General Patton. And this was supposed to have been he was an artilleryman, but he also had a cattle ranch in Texas, and this was his, what's the word? You know how that brand, his cattle brand was AAA bar nothing. But he also had another slogan, "It don't make no difference, we'll take it." But one day they told me he was, and I got a book on the 9th Division, and they got an excerpt in there about Colonel Flint. And it said he was up on a tank pointing back at the Germans, said, "You son of bitches can't hit me, it don't make no difference," but they got him.
Did they get him?
And killed him right then.
Oh my. Guess he tempted a little bit too much.
It made a difference.
You've seen a lot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I think what you did today is good. It should be more of that done. And, you know, we don't consider ourselves heroes or anything, but we had a job to do, and we did it. And Tom Brokaw, watched him this morning, and he had tears in his eyes when he was talking about the greatest generation. And there'll never be another war like that, and I hope not anyway.
Certainly hope not. But your whole generation, you didn't question it. You just did it because it was what was right, and everyone did what needed to be done and just was there to do the job.
That's it.
Well, it was a great day to say thank you.
I appreciate it, and as I said before, I'm glad Clemson taught you a lot that you can give back to some people that have helped you.
The community's been wonderful to us. It's great to be able to give back to our community as well. And it was even more special to have you here.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, John. I've been back to France, and I've been almost to Normandy, but I never could make myself go back to the beaches. John sent me some sand from the beaches one time.
I'll tell you a funny story is Uncle Louis, we tried to talk him into all of us going to Normandy to visit and to hear some stories. And Uncle Louis told us, he said, I made a pact with God when I hit the beach that if you get me off this beach, I'll never come back to this beach. But he said that after 65, I think this was 5 years ago, after 65 years he'd been talking to God, and God said it would have been all right for him to go back one more time. But we never made it. But I'd still like to see it with him and through his eyes.
I would have liked to go on this time. And I think we would have gone if Aunt Tana had been able to go. And
they said 1,000 people were on the beach this morning, 1,000 American GIs.
I bet.
Well, we came close today with 82.
They didn't see the beach like I saw it for the first time. And I'll tell y'all one thing. If you ever go to New Orleans and you want to see Normandy Beach like it was then, just go to the D-Day Museum. They've got some scenes up there that is just so realistic. I just sat down and cried like a baby.
Did you really?
I really did. I just remembered all that.
Wow. Have to do that for sure.
Well, I think that's enough of us today.
Thank you. We have a gift bag, a gift prize for all of you. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we have shirts that have the commemoration of the 70th anniversary for everyone. Well, hopefully for everyone. Did everybody hear how many people arrived today? I mean, we talked at the beginning that we were expecting, maybe 20, and we had reservations for 58. We have 84 World War II veterans in the building today. 84 of you wonderful, wonderful people. So you guys keep perpetuating when they say you are the greatest generation. You came out in mass today to show us what real patriotism and what America really is. Thank you all very much. I want to thank several people. We had a lot of people that put a lot of time into this. Obviously, Charles Clapsettle, thanks for your crew for being here. My crew has been working hard. Scott, Tom, Laura, Nick, Lynn. I know I'm going to forget someone. Mrs. Clarence has been working hard.
I hope you have some support to help you pay for this.
I get paid every day.
Yes.
Every day. We're glad to do it. You guys paid a long time ago. It's our turn to pay. It's definitely our time. Thank you so very, very much. We've got a gift basket for everyone as you're leaving. Southern Wine and Spirits has a bottle of wine in there to help you get through the day, and if that doesn't work, there's a bottle of Jim Beam too. So it'll fit perfectly in your back hip pocket. I want to thank everybody from Southern Wine and Spirits as well. Mixon Fruit Farms has donated a prize, and Tommy O'Brien of O'Brien Family Farms, in memory of his father Marty, who was in the Pacific Ocean during World War II, has dropped, I think, 200 watermelons at the front door. So please take a watermelon home with you. If you want, plug a little hole in there and put that bottle of Jim Beam at the top of it. Makes a great watermelon. You'll really enjoy the watermelon if you do that. Thank you all for being here today. It's been a true honor to have you all here. Thanks to the press for being here. Summer, bless you very much. Yeah. You don't have to carry the watermelons. We'll have somebody take them to your car for you. So we do. Oh, yeah. Please make sure you watch Bay News 9 tonight. METV will have you on tonight. I believe Channel 7 was here as well. And we've had great coverage from the local papers and so forth. If you're on social media, I know you're all tweeting. And all right, who's tweeting in here? Anybody tweeting? We had this idea a month and a half ago to do this, and I never thought it would be this awesome. This is great. You guys have made my day, and I appreciate it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.